The creative industries are one of this country's success stories, contributing more than £90 billion a year to the UK economy. Industries like film, television, music and publishing. Well, with only 10 months to go before the UK leaves the European Union, people in this sector are asking how they will be affected. And all day, BBC News has been examining the impact of Brexit on the creative industries here in Britain. Our arts correspondent, David Sillito, has this report.
What you're looking at is the work of a British company called Jellyfish, which is just a part of the UK's fast-growing visual effects industry.
This is Rogue One, Star Wars. We've done quite a lot of work on Star Wars in the last 2 or 3 years.
This is really high-end Hollywood stuff then?
Absolutely, yeah, and we're one of the, I think, if not the leading centre for doing visual effects animation in the world.
This has become very big business. There are more people making special effects in the UK these days than work in the coal industry.
Il mio nome è Chiara. Mitt namn är Carina och jag...
Hola, mi nombre es Manuel Reyes.
Ciao, sono Tommaso.
But what's really striking is how international the workforce is.
As you can see, everyone's busily working away here. There's fellows from Spain, Poland, Ireland, Belgium, Sweden. Well, if we're going to really show you what it's like here, we've got to get everyone together.
Here they all are. Now, if you take away the workers from other European Union countries, you begin to see just how much they rely on access to European talent. And what's more, all the technology and software is stored remotely on cloud computing. The office just needs a good internet connection. The only reason they're here is because of the people.
This office in particular has no computers. It's silent. It's very rare in our industry. That gives us ability to pick this up and move it to where the talent is, and we will do that if we have to, and many of us are already doing that.
But what of other parts of the so-called creative industries? This is the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. Colette Overdijk is from Holland. Her orchestral life began in the EU's Youth Orchestra, which was based in the UK and is now moving to Italy.
So you feel really part of one big European family, and it feels very sad that this is now ripped apart.
But for the man in charge, leaving the EU is all about practicalities. Much of their income comes from touring Europe.
If we had to go and sort out visits to embassies, visas, work permits, all of that, just to go to Germany or France or Netherlands, actually those tours become non-viable, which is a problem because we rely on that income, but we also rely on that reputational pool. The same is true, frankly, of the instruments.
Paperwork for every instrument crossing every frontier is not what they want. So there are many questions. But
the big issue, though, is how can we continue to grow our creative exports? And it is possible that the new trade deals we're going to do with the rest of the world will assist that. But there's a caveat, and that is the creative industries is really about selling digital packages around the world. You don't need lots of rules, regulations and standards for that. And we don't want the new trade deals we do to say you should run yourselves differently.
So there are hopes that Brexit could help unlock new global trade deals, but there is clearly still much to resolve. David Sillito, BBC News, Birmingham.
Well, let's discuss this more now with Miriam, Elia, who's a British artist and part of the group Artists for Brexit. And also we've got in Glasgow Liz Tribe, who's managing director of the publishing house Hodder Education. Let's start with you. I mean, what do you think the impacts of Brexit are likely to be on Britain's creative industries, which, as we've been hearing, are hugely valuable to this country?
Well, yes, that's right. And the publishing industry, especially as part of the creative industries, we're important in our own right, and also in the way we contribute to film, to television, to plays around the world. Brexit could be a very good thing for us. We're excited about the opportunities. One in particular is the opportunity to reclaim the ability to set our own VAT rates. At the moment, the EU imposes VAT rates, especially on e-books and audiobooks. That means that consumers have to pay 20% more on those books as opposed to physical books, which have no VAT or zero rate. That means the hard of hearing, the visually impaired are paying an extra tax, which we want to see removed, and Brexit would enable the government to do that.
So that's a positive, but some members of the Creative Industries Federation, for example, have said they're worried about the free movement of talent, the free movement of funds for the creative industries and so on.
Yes, and that is a concern. Like the other creative industries, we rely on talent from across Europe, both in our publishing houses, as our authors, the translators who bring across different ideas from around the world. And we would be concerned if that talent can't move as freely as it can today.
All right, let's talk, Miriam, from Artists for Brexit. You're a British artist. You voted for Brexit, obviously.
Yes.
Do you have any concerns that, curtailments of free movements of people, will that have any impact, do you think, on the arts industries in this country?
In some ways, yes, it will. But in another way, you could look at it that 46% of students coming to study art in the UK are non-EU members, and they don't get a fair treatment after they've gone through their course. They don't get any work placements and they are sent straight back home. So perhaps we could use Brexit to make a more equal setting for, both EU and non-EU members can stay here, work here and contribute.
So you think it's potentially a time for opportunity?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
But in terms of the Creative Industries Federation, was a sort of umbrella group that looks after the various creative industries, music, publishing, as we've discussed, and so on, film and so on, 96% of their members voted Remain. So they clearly feel that actually leaving the EU could be damaging.
Well, it could be damaging, but I don't think it will be. I think it's a blank canvas, and I think it's whatever we want it to be, it will be. And plenty of artists I know voted Brexit, but because of the climate after they voted Brexit, they basically didn't talk about it. And these are just, illustrators, writers, etc., who many of them live outside of London as well. So London does have the creative pool, but I think Brexit is a fantastic opportunity to nurture creative talent all over Britain. The actual EU budget for the creative industries was 40 million a year, and to put that in perspective, the Royal Opera House takes 26 million from our own lottery and our own Arts Council. So it's actually, they didn't really put in that much. It's not a huge loss, and we should be able to recompense anything that we're not going to get. So I think, generally it could be a great thing.
Okay, you say it could be a great thing. Liz Tribe, the Confederation of the Creative Industries Federation have said they're quite worried about the impact of Brexit on these industries, including your own. Do you share some of those concerns?
Yes, we do have concerns. Miriam mentioned funding. In the science and research fields, academic publishing is a big part of our industry and a big exporter. And funding from the EU has underpinned quite a lot of research that goes on in this country. And just today, I think reported in The Guardian, there's a real concern about how much of that funding we will be able to access and the impact that might have on our academic and research community, which indirectly impacts the publishing industry as well.
And we know, don't we, Miriam, that this industry, if we take it very broadly, music, television, movie making, all that stuff, it does contribute billions and billions of pounds to the UK economy. And traditionally, maybe it's been seen as a sort of soft industry, but it actually is quite crucial.
It is, but this is an interesting statistic. In 2013, £5.2 billion was generated by our arts and culture sector. 86% of that went to non-EU countries. So only 16% was even relevant to the EU, which shows you that even if we did leave, there would still be a market for our work abroad, and there would still be those connections. I refuse to think that everyone will just stop making things.
And Liz Tribe, whatever your views on Brexit, you think now we have to make the best of it, and the creative industries of this country have to make the best of it?
I think that's right. It's going to happen. There are opportunities, as Miriam says. We're a strong exporting industry in publishing, and there are opportunities for us outside of Europe. So yes.
All right, good to talk to both of you. Thank you very much. Liz Tribe there, Managing Director of Hodder Education, and Miriam Elia, a British artist. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you're watching BBC News.